Hello, welcome to the channel. Subscribe, leave a like, and don't forget to write a comment. Enjoy watching.
It was a Wednesday, early spring, one of those cool, quiet mornings when the birds are louder than the traffic and everything outside the window looks like a filtered postcard of someone else's life. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my usual black coffee, no cream, no sugar, just bitter enough to feel like a decision. My dog, Lucky, a 12-year-old mutt with more personality than fur at this point, was curled by the heater vent like he paid rent. The house was silent except for the occasional creak of aging floorboards and the mechanical buzz of my fridge struggling to stay alive. Then my phone lit up, face down, buzzing against the wood like it had something urgent to say. I flipped it over and squinted at the screen. 37 new messages in the Family Fun Time group chat. That name alone made my stomach tighten. I hadn't checked it in weeks, maybe months. The last time I posted in there was when Lucky had surgery and I asked them to chip in. Only Janet replied, "Thought you said you were doing fine, Sam?" That was all. No one else even acknowledged it. So I let the thread rot like old leftovers in the back of the fridge. But 37 messages? Something had happened. I tapped in, half expecting a death, a wedding, or another one of Mom's health scares that magically clears up the minute she gets the attention. Instead, there were photos. Lots of them. Blue skies. White sand. Matching navy blue duffel bags with Hartley Family Cruise 2024 embroidered on the side in gold script. My sister Janet standing on a dock in a wide-brimmed hat that probably cost more than my entire week of groceries, holding a glass of champagne and grinning like someone who always gets her way. My brother Chris doing a double thumbs-up in a Hawaiian shirt that was both ironic and horrifying. Even my parents were there, arms around each other, squinting in the sun like two actors trying to pretend they were still in love. Then the captions, "Bon voyage from the whole crew. Finally taking that dream cruise together. Family time is the best time." Not a single mention of me. Not even a joking "wish you were here." No tag, no direct message, no polite lie. I wasn't invited. I wasn't even considered. And as I scrolled further, a pit started to open in my stomach, a kind of cold, slow-burning humiliation that I hadn't felt since high school when I showed up to Janet's graduation party in a hand-sewn dress. And she told everyone I looked like I was wearing a pillowcase. The phone rang then, perfect timing, like a director yelling "action" right as the lead breaks down. It was Janet. I let it ring once, twice, then answered with a voice so smooth I didn't recognize it as mine. "Hey, Sammy," she said, her voice all fake sunshine and powdered sugar. "Just wanted to give you a heads up in case you saw the photos. We figured it might look weird if we didn't say anything." I didn't say a word. Just breathed slowly and evenly through my nose like I'd practiced in therapy back when I could afford it. "So, we kind of took a vote," she continued, "and that's when I knew this wasn't just a miscommunication. This was a decision. This was deliberate. We just thought maybe, given everything, you might not be in the best place financially right now, you know? Like, with your business and all that. Cruises are expensive, and we didn't want to put pressure on you." That word "we" felt like a slap. It meant Mom agreed. Dad agreed. Chris probably made a damn joke about it. I imagined them in a group chat without me, something like "no cruise for broke Sam," laughing into their old fashions and never once thinking how that choice might sit in my chest like a brick. I cleared my throat, careful not to let her hear the rage boiling beneath the surface. "Sure," I said. "I get it. Totally understand." Thanks for being so cool about it," she chirped, like I was a child who had taken her medicine without spitting it out. After we hung up, I sat in silence. Not crying. Not shouting. Just still. Like the air had gone thick and I was suspended inside it. Lucky nudged my foot with his nose, sensing something in me he couldn't name. I reached down, scratched behind his ears, and whispered, "It's okay, boy. They'll see." I stood up, walked over to the corner of the room where my old laptop sat charging, and opened it. The screen lit up like it knew what was coming. My inbox had 2 unread messages. One from my lawyer, the subject line bold and glowing like a green light in a tunnel. Final review. Vireo acquisition terms. I hovered my hand over the trackpad, eyes locked on the screen. They thought I was broke. They thought I was fragile. They thought I couldn't afford to celebrate with them, but they had no idea what I'd been building behind the curtain, in the quiet hours between disappointment and obsession. The funny thing is, I hadn't planned to close the deal that night. I hadn't planned to make a statement. But life hands you moments. And sometimes, just sometimes, you hand them right back. I clicked open the document. My heart thumped once, deep in my ribs. I started reading the terms. And somewhere, far away, the Hartley family cruise ship was pulling away from the dock. Let them sail. I had something better. 6 months earlier, everything looked different. The sky, my bank account, the tone in my mother's voice, even the way the neighbors waved. Back then, I was still playing the game of almost. Almost there. Almost sustainable. Almost successful. Every call with my lawyer felt like peeling back duct tape from skin, slow, painful, necessary, but each inch promised something massive on the other side. I was the sole founder of a modest AI startup called CoreKind, a platform designed to detect early-stage cognitive decline, using nothing more than a phone's camera and microphone. Simple tech. Powerful results. I built it after watching my father fade in and out of lucidity during his last year of active duty. He would forget his passwords, then his rank, then my name, and I remember thinking, what if we had known sooner? The irony that he now remembered everyone except me wasn't lost on me. Still, the idea caught interest. Not from my family, no, they thought it was another project like the organic dog shampoo I tried to sell back in 2012, but from the right people. Investors, researchers, and finally, a cold email from someone at Vireo Technologies asking if I'd be open to a conversation about licensing, then a partnership, and finally, acquisition. I'd played it cool on the outside, but inside I was a mix of fire and nausea. The meetings started casual. Zoom calls with tight-lipped executives and stiff suits who smiled with their teeth, but not their eyes. Then came the term sheets, the NDAs, the back and forth where one missing comma could cost you millions. It dragged for months. I started waking up at 3 in the morning just to check if my email had dinged. Some nights, I'd lie there thinking of all the things I'd buy if it went through, not yachts or diamonds or any of that gaudy revenge stuff, but practical things. A new roof. A real espresso machine. Heating that worked on every floor. And maybe, just maybe, a family cruise, the one I would pay for. The one they'd be invited to or not. Then came the night they left. I didn't know at the time that their bags were already packed, that the car was loaded and the champagne chilling. I was knee-deep in contract revisions, trying to focus on words like indemnification and post-closing obligations while my stomach flipped like I'd swallowed a blender. My attorney, Ronnie, who had the voice of a sleep-deprived jazz musician and the patience of a priest, was walking me through the final red lines. "Sign this tonight, and it's done," he said. "Tomorrow, you're liquid, and they wire you the full amount within 48 hours. I asked him to repeat that. Not because I didn't understand, but because I needed to hear it again in a voice that wasn't mine. $90 million. That's what Vireo had offered. Full acquisition. No earn-out, no strings, just clean, blinding freedom. And I'm not stupid. I knew 90 million meant I'd only get maybe, 60,000 after taxes? Yeah, you caught that, didn't you? Do the math and tell me how off I was. I dare you. Still, I signed. I didn't cry right away. It didn't feel real at first. I just sat there staring at the cursor blinking in the corner of the signed PDF like it was breathing with me. Lucky was asleep in his usual spot, snoring softly like someone who'd never doubted me. I looked around my kitchen, the chipped paint, the flickering light above the sink, the microwave with buttons that stuck when the weather changed, and it hit me. I wept. Not loud, not theatrical. Just soft, steady tears that tasted like relief and spite and 12 years of being underestimated. Somewhere in the background, I heard a phone buzz. A reminder? A message? Didn't matter. Everything was different now. I closed the laptop, exhaled, and felt the kind of silence that doesn't come from lack of noise, it comes from closure. Hours passed. I must have fallen asleep at the kitchen table because when the morning sun started leaking in through the blinds, my phone was ringing in my lap. I blinked, rubbed my face, and looked at the screen. Family group FaceTime. All of them were there. Janet, Chris, Mom, and Dad frozen in that awkward pre-connection posture, smiles half-formed, eyes not quite looking at the lens. They looked happy. Or at least, like they wanted to be seen as happy. Probably on the ship already. Probably drunk before noon. Probably realizing they'd made a mistake. I stared at the screen as it rang. Once. Twice. 4 times. My thumb hovered over the green button, the way it does when you're not sure if you want to open the door or set the house on fire. Then I hit decline. Not ignore. Decline. There's a difference. One is passive. The other is a choice. The first call came in around 8:15 that morning, barely 10 minutes after I'd let the family FaceTime ring itself into silence and vanish like the bad idea it was. At first, I thought it was a butt dial or maybe one of those automated cruise ship promo calls where a fake voice congratulates you on winning a vacation you never entered. But no, it was Chris. Actual, real, human Chris, my younger brother with the beer gut and the overdeveloped confidence, calling me like we'd just spoken yesterday, like there hadn't been a vote to cut me out of the family trip just a week earlier. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail that started off like a joke, half laughing his way through. Hey, Sammy. Hope you're good. We heard about your little business thing. Janet said you might have sold it or something. That's wild, sis. That's like real money, huh? We should totally do a little get-together when we're back. Celebrate your big score. Call me, all right? My thumb hovered over delete, but I didn't press it. I listened to it again. Then I let it sit there, taking up space, like a piece of food you don't want to touch rotting quietly at the back of the fridge. 2 hours later, Janet chimed in with a voice memo, all syrup and spitshine, like she'd forgotten the exact words she used when she told me I couldn't afford to come. Hey, Sam. OMG, just heard from Chris. You did what? Girl, why didn't you tell us? You must be over the moon. We are so happy for you. You totally deserve this. Seriously, let's plan something when we're back. Wine night, our treat, okay? Text me. There was something about the girl and the our treat that made my jaw clench so tight I thought my teeth might crack. I turned off my phone. I didn't silence it. I shut the damn thing off like I was hanging a closed permanently sign on the window of a store they thought they owned stock in. By noon, I'd packed a small bag. I threw in leggings, a thick sweater, hiking boots, and that linen dress I only wore when I needed to feel like a woman who knew what the hell she was doing. I filled a thermos with coffee, tossed Lucky's leash in the front seat, and drove north with no music, no map, and no plan beyond a way. A friend of mine, one of the few who stuck around after my divorce, had told me once about a little mountain resort up near Mammoth, a quiet place with fireplaces in every room and no televisions by design. That's where I went. I booked 3 nights, gave them a fake last name, and left my phone powered off in the glove compartment like it had become radioactive. The first night, I just sat on the deck outside my cabin with Lucky sleeping at my feet, wrapped in a fleece blanket, sipping wine and letting the silence do its job. No buzzing. No screen. No fake apologies. Just the wind in the trees and the crackle of logs in the fireplace behind me. That's when the flashbacks came. Uninvited, of course, like bad guests. There was the time at Christmas 5 years ago when I brought a prototype of my software to the family dinner, hoping for some encouragement. I'd worked on it for months, long nights with cheap coffee and expensive bugs, and I just wanted them to see it. Janet rolled her eyes after 2 minutes and said, "This is like those brain games Grandma plays on her iPad, right?" Chris muttered something about scam apps and laughed so hard he almost spit out his wine. My mom just smiled that tight-lipped smile she reserves for strangers and said, "Well, If it makes you happy, dear. That night, I cried in the downstairs bathroom while everyone else opened gifts and pretended we were still a family. There was also the moment, 2 years before that, when my ex, Mark, slammed his laptop shut in the middle of a fight and told me he was done playing second fiddle to some pipe dream company no one's ever heard of. He packed up his stuff while I sat there cross-legged on the floor, not begging him to stay, but not strong enough to tell him to go faster. And yet here I was now, the one who stayed, the one who built something from the ashes, the one who signed a deal with more zeros than the number of apologies I'd ever received from them. On the second night at the cabin, after a long hike and a hot shower, I sat down on the bed and stared at the wood-paneled ceiling. Then, out of nowhere, I reached for my laptop and opened it. Not to check email, not to respond to any of their messages, but to write a new one. To a design firm in Los Angeles I'd been stalking online for months, the kind of place that works with celebrities and luxury developers, not with single women from Pasadena with cracked tile floors and a rusting mailbox. I typed slowly, deliberately, then read it over twice. Hello, I'm looking for a full residential renovation. Complete teardown. Modern, minimal, smart integrated. Budget is flexible. Timeframe is immediate. Money isn't an issue. And then I hit send. There's a kind of power in silence that nobody teaches you when you're growing up, especially not in families like mine, where volume equals importance and whoever speaks first usually wins the argument by sheer momentum. But after that weekend in the mountains, with the fireplace, the pine trees, and 3 straight days of not explaining myself to anyone, I came back changed. Not dramatic changed. Not dyed my hair and got a new tattoo changed. Something quieter. Something underneath. It felt like shedding skin I'd been dragging around for years, other people's voices, other people's doubts, their pity, their assumptions, all sloughed off in layers until I could finally hear myself think. When I pulled into the driveway of my tired old house, the one with the leaning mailbox and the porch light that hadn't worked since Obama was in office, I didn't feel ashamed anymore. I didn't feel like the struggling one or the one they whispered about during holidays. I felt like someone at the beginning of a very expensive, very intentional kind of rebirth. That very week, I met with the design firm in person. They walked through the house in silence, taking notes, sketching possibilities, asking questions in a tone that made it clear nothing was out of reach. We gutted everything. Walls came down, ceilings came up, wires were ripped out and replaced with smart tech that could sense the temperature of my mood before I even touched the thermostat. The whole place became something unrecognizable: white oak floors, matte black fixtures, sliding glass doors that disappeared into the walls. Not flashy, not loud. Just clean, deliberate, undeniable. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post photos or write some humble brag about blessings or hard work paying off. Instead, I started investing in things that made me feel alive. I met with a financial advisor and said no to nothing. I found a community clinic in East LA and quietly paid off their overdue medical equipment invoices. I created a grant for women in tech who were over 40 and ignored by investors. I sponsored a scholarship under my mother's maiden name, not to honor her exactly, but because I liked the poetry of erasing my own in the process. Everything I gave away was anonymous. Every gift came with the same condition: tell no one. Especially not them. Meanwhile, my phone stayed busy with texts I never answered. Janet started sending me property listings. Chris sent videos of their cruise adventures, always with the caption, "Wish you were here." Dad never called, but Mom left voicemails with just enough guilt to stick like a splinter under my skin. "We just want to talk," she'd say. "Just want to understand." But I knew what they really wanted. They didn't want to understand, they wanted proximity to success. They wanted me back now that I had a number next to my name. The invitation to Dad's 80th birthday came by email, like they couldn't even be bothered to pick up the phone. Janet wrote it, of course, all caps, exclamation points, a subject line that read "Family Gathering of the Year." They were hosting it at some rented hall just outside of Palm Springs. Casual dress code, catered barbecue, slideshow of old family photos. "We'd love to see you," she wrote, with a smiley face I could practically hear through the screen. For 2 days, I ignored it. Then, on the third morning, I woke up, brewed coffee in my new built-in espresso station, and thought, why not? I didn't RSVP. I didn't warn anyone. I just showed up. I wore a simple black dress, the kind that clings in all the right places without saying a damn word. No logos, no glitter, no screaming look at me energy. Just grace with edge. Understated diamond studs. My hair pulled back, no dramatic makeover, just clean and confident and mine. I parked my Tesla at the far end of the lot and walked in like I had nothing to prove because, for the first time in my life, I didn't. The minute I stepped through the double doors, the air changed. It wasn't loud or sudden, just a slow, creeping hush that rolled over the room like a fog. Heads turned. Forks paused midair. Janet was the first to approach, wine glass in hand, that too bright smile stretching across her face like it might split at the seams. "Sam," she said, too loud, too rehearsed. "Oh my God. You came. You look amazing." I just smiled. Not wide. Not fake. Just enough to make her uncomfortable. Behind her, Chris let out a low whistle and elbowed Dad. "Guess we picked the wrong sister to leave out, huh?" That's when I finally spoke. For the first time in months. I looked him straight in the eye and said, with a calm that felt like thunder under the skin, "No, you picked exactly right." He laughed, awkward and unsure, looking to Janet like maybe this was a joke he didn't get. But it wasn't. I wasn't there to make peace. I wasn't there to punish them, either. I was there to exist, unshrinkable, undeniable, in the room where I used to be invisible. Somewhere behind me, I heard the slideshow start, old photos flickering across a rented screen. There was a picture of all of us at Disney in the 90s. Janet with a princess crown, Chris in mouse ears, me in the background, holding the map. Always the one figuring out where we were going, even then. The cabin sat at the edge of a still lake where the air felt thicker than silence, and the morning sun poured through the fog like slow honey spilling across the trees. I'd rented the place on a whim, half a day's drive north, tucked far enough away that cell towers gave up before trying, and time stretched its limbs out like it didn't owe anyone anything. It was one of those days that makes you believe in starting over, where nothing feels urgent, and even your regrets seem too tired to speak. Lucky was asleep by the sliding door, one eye cracked open just enough to keep watch, but otherwise still, old dog peace, earned and unbothered. It was a holiday, the kind of day where families gather in matching flannel, force smiles for porch photos, and post them with long captions about blessings and gratitude that sound suspiciously like public therapy. I hadn't planned to come up here because it was a holiday. I'd come to escape exactly that. The phone had been quiet for most of the morning, but around 10 a.m., I caved and turned it back on, half expecting the battery to have drained just out of spite. Instead, it lit up immediately: voicemails, missed calls, texts, each one bearing a name I'd grown used to avoiding. First it was Mom, her name blinking on the screen like a blinking warning light on a highway you don't want to take. Then Janet. Then Chris. Then, finally, Dad, the last one I ever expected to reach out, his name somehow heavier than the others, not because of what he'd done, but because of what he'd allowed. The missed call log looked like a stacked deck, and I could feel the weight of each one without even pressing play. But I did. One by one. Mom's voice came first, sweet and tired and full of that studied regret she always kept in her back pocket. "Hi, honey. We were just thinking of you today. Janet told us about everything. About your success. It's really wonderful, sweetheart. We're proud of you. We didn't mean to hurt you. Honestly, we just thought we were being practical. You know how things were. Anyway, we'd love to have you join us for the family photo later. We got matching scarves. Yours is navy, your color." The message ended with a long pause, like she wanted to say more but couldn't decide if it would help or make things worse. Then came Janet's. Hers was all sugar and shine, like she was trying to rewrite the last 6 months in under a minute. Sam, we miss you. Seriously, everyone's asking where you are. We're doing the family photo at 3, and it just won't feel right without you. Can we just start over? You've always been the glue, even when we didn't see it. Come by, please. Chris followed with the kind of laid-back guilt I'd expected. Hey, sis. I know things got kinda weird. But come on. It's family. Let's not blow this out of proportion. We're all idiots sometimes. You showed us up respect. Now get over here and let's make peace. Then Dad. Just 5 words in that steady gravel voice. You should be here, Samantha. I sat there for a long while after the last one played, just staring out at the water, my phone in my lap like a stone I didn't want to throw. There was a time when each of their voices could wreck me, twist something in my stomach, or make me second-guess every damn thing I thought I knew. But not today. Today, their voices sounded like echoes in a house I'd already moved out of, bouncing off walls that no longer belonged to me. I wasn't angry. That part had passed. This wasn't about revenge anymore, or making them feel what I had felt. I knew they'd never feel that, not truly. You can't force empathy where there's only entitlement. I thought about all the times I'd shrunk myself to make room for their comfort. All the times I'd laughed off the insults, swallowed the digs, carried their doubt like some family heirloom I was too polite to put down. But now I had both hands free. I didn't call them back. I didn't send a polite maybe next time text or offer a rain check. I didn't drive down for the photo. I didn't even check what navy scarf they'd picked out for me. Instead, I walked outside, stood barefoot on the deck, and let the breeze move through me like a baptism. Maybe they'd never understand what they did. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't care. I'll never know. And that's the part that stings if I let it, the permanent gap between their version of events and mine. But somewhere between the betrayal and the silence, I realized something. Forgiveness doesn't always come with a hug. Sometimes it comes with a locked door, a steady voice, and a quiet decision that you don't owe them anything. Not even the sound of your hello. My phone buzzed again. One more call. Probably Janet, trying one last time before they lined up in front of the fireplace and captured their smiling lie. I looked at the screen, watched the name pulse in and out, like a heartbeat I no longer felt connected to. And yeah, the phone rang again, but I let it ring.